Welcome into Hockey Sense. Once again, everybody, hope everyone is having a great day. I know it's been a difficult week here in our country. Um, Hopefully, everyone can take a deep breath, relax, and enjoy some hockey talk over the course of the next hour plus here on Hockey Sense. Brought to you by First Community, as always. First Community brings you the Little Blues program. You want to get your son or daughter introduced to the game of ice hockey? Do it with Little Blues and do it today. Sign them up, get all the equipment that comes with it, so you don't have to go to the hockey shop and say, "Hey, I need to get skates. I don't know what I need to get." It's so overwhelming. You don't have to worry about any of it. First Community and the Blues take all of that hassle away from you, and they take care of all of it. So if you're between the ages of 4 and 9 and you've never participated in organized ice hockey, do it today with Little Blues. It's a great opportunity to get started. And listen, parents, before you want to invest thousands and thousands of dollars into your kids' minor hockey career, see if they even like it, if they want to do it. And then you can decide. Make a decision. Chances are they're going to love it, especially when they get into it with Little Blues. Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop. Download the app today. And listen, man, I love Dirt Cheap. They got the best kept secret in town, man. With the discount they give you on Blues game days. Also, they got the best selection of beer, wine, and booze anywhere. Oh, yeah, over at Dirt Cheap. Find one with the drive-thru. You don't have to even get out of your car. You can shop from your app. They've got all these deals on the app. Yeah, they call them steals. That's how good they are. The deals are. They call them steals. You can do it on the app. Do it today. Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop. The Wallace family just flat out getting it done and helping bring us Hockey Sense each and every week. Blue Note Roofing, you see the sign behind us. 314-920-5713. Call David Novak today. Let him take care of you. Give you that free estimate. Huge hockey fan, by the way. I'm 1-0 in my survival pool with David Novak, too. Picked the Redskins last week. Good thing I didn't pick them this week. They lost to the Packers yesterday. So I got a few ideas of where I'm going to go for this week. Nonetheless, Blue Note Roofing is the best in the business. Gutters, roofing, siding, soffit, fascia, whatever it is you're looking for. Let them help you and take care of you. Cross Country Mortgage, baby. Rates are at the lowest point that they've been in the last 12 months. I mean, that is absolutely true. And they're offering 15-year loans right now in the 5s. I mean, who would have thought that was going to be possible? 15-year loans in the 5s, 30-year loans in the low to mid 6s. I mean, you've got to be kidding me right now. This is what Mark Cooper does for everyone. I mean, not just for our listeners. You can tell a friend if they didn't listen to the show. Hey, make sure you tell them to say my name or say Hockey Sense, and they're going to waive all the lender and appraisal fees. It's going to save you like $2,000 off of fees. So Mark Cooper flat out handing out gifts right now. Take advantage of that. Cross Country Mortgage. 1 out of every 35 mortgages in the country is closed with Cross Country Mortgage. They've got great incentives for first responders. If you're critically injured or killed in the line of duty, they're going to cover your mortgage up to $525,000. I mean, you got to be kidding me. If you're a doctor, they're going to pay your closing costs up to $1 million and all your fees that come with that for doctors out there. So all you medical professionals, all you first responders, take advantage of all the great things that are going on right now with Mark Cooper and Cross Country Mortgage. 314-713-4377. 314-713-4377. Cross Country Mortgage, baby. All right, we're here on Hockey Sense. I was out at the rink yesterday. I got a chance to talk to some of the listeners, man. I love it when the listeners come over and say hello. I met a couple of you yesterday, so big shout out to each and every one of you. I mean, some of you guys are really in tune with what's going on with the Blues prospects, and I love that. Great understanding of the business side of things, where they're at. The hesitancy, I think, to not rush these guys. Listen, I read and I hear and I get a lot of messages from Blues fans, and, everyone wants just that instant gratification. They want all these guys here right now, but they also want to win. They also want to have a team that's capable of going deep into playoffs, and that's why, I mean, you've got to have a system with some depth and where you're constantly turning things over and you're developing big-time talent. And I think the Blues do have some big-time talent. And everyone's focusing on Dvorsky, and people ask me, will Dvorsky make the team? And I know it sounds cliche, and I don't like to sound cliche, you know that. But we'll see how he does in preseason. I mean, if he goes out there and dominates, I mean, literally dominates, then they'll probably make a place for him, or, make space for him. And somebody's going to have to get booted out if that's the case. But he's got to steal someone's job. I look at it right now. I said it last week. I think 14 forwards right now are set. That doesn't include Dvorsky, doesn't include Milan Lucic, So guys like Lucic, guys like Dvorsky, they got to come in and they got to steal a job, and they've got to force management's hands and, force a move. Whether that's paying a guy who's making money down in the American League, send him down, putting a player on waivers. We'll see if another team takes that player. But more often than not, it's, and NHL people have told me this for decades, that the best time to send players through waivers and get them through waivers is usually around training camp, the beginning of once rosters are set towards the end of camp as we transition from training camp in the preseason into the regular season. That's the best time to do it. So again, can Dvorsky push somebody out? Can Lucic push somebody out? So I do see a lot of mock lines and stuff like that. You know me, I don't love doing lines in the summertime, but line combinations, that is. I look at it and I say, I see how some people have Bukestad playing the wing. I think Bukestad right now is penciled in as a center. I think they want him to play center. He's a big, long body. Maybe center that fourth line with Toropchenko and Walker. And, maybe Sonny can slide over to the wing. Maybe Shen can slide over to the wing. And again, maybe Dvorsky centering that third line. You just don't know how this is going to play out. But I'm not putting my money on Dvorsky making the team right now. He does look like he's skating better. Tim Taylor even said so yesterday. I had a chance to watch practice. I won't be able to get out there today because they're on the ice right now. I would have loved to get out there and watch practice. But they are playing tonight. Check it out. 7 o'clock. They're playing against Minnesota in the Prospect Showcase up there in Minnesota. They call it the Tom Curvers Showcase. Of course, the late Minnesota legend, Tom Curvers, who battled cancer, bravely battled cancer and succumbed to it a few years back. And they've named this showcase after him. So I love the fact that Minnesota did that. Minnesota's in the news also because they've got Kirill, the real deal, dollar bill Kirill Kaprizov. I mean, in the middle of a contract negotiation, turning down big time money, like $128 million, tells you kind of everything you need to know. How do you say you don't want to stay in Minnesota without saying you don't want to stay in Minnesota? I mean, that's probably the best way to do it. Turn down $128 million. And I know some people are saying, well, he probably knows he can get more money elsewhere, but I don't think it's just about getting more money elsewhere. I think he wants to go play elsewhere. And the New York Rangers have always been the team that have been attached to Kaprizov. And, with Panarin there, I guess maybe that would make some sense. And I don't know if the Rangers can pull it off. I haven't studied their salary cap to see if that's doable for them. But typically, if a team wants a specific player, they're going to find a way to make that happen. And who knows how this plays out. I mean, if Kaprizov were to leave after the season, will we see a blockbuster trade? Would Minnesota move on from him? I feel like Billy Guerin is going to want to protect his organization the best of his ability and make sure you're getting some big time assets back if you're going to move him. It would have to be a sign and trade. That's the best way to recoup the most assets and to get the most value in return. So pay attention to Kaprizov. We'll see how that plays out. But I don't think anyone truly ever expected him to stay in Minnesota. And I'm not closing the door on him staying there and re-signing with the Wild. But I just never felt like that was in the cards. I always felt like he was going to move on and he was going to leave. Could be wrong. Hope not. I like to see these teams who, bring these players over, specifically from Russia. And they, show some loyalty to the organization. And they stick with the organization. That's a big-time contract they're offering him. Because I feel like that $16 million number is around the range that Connor McDavid is going to come in at. Now, I just wonder if his camp is sitting back and saying, hold on, pump the brakes. let's see where this goes with Kaprizov before we sign. Because if he signs for some astronomical number, then, we're not going to have Kaprizov making more money than us. But I never felt that McDavid was, using this opportunity to become the highest paid player. I think this guy wants to win so badly. He knows he's going to get paid big time money regardless. And he could sign a deal today that would make him the highest paid player, north of what um, his teammate Leon Draisaitl is making, who's in that $14 million range. He could certainly surpass that and get to 16. And I still think allow, in his mind, the organization to build around McDavid and Draisaitl and put together a championship caliber roster. Now, you could argue they have one already, considering they went to the Stanley Cup final each of the last 2 seasons, but they have proven that they weren't good enough to win, even though they came back and forced a Game 7 2 years ago. But those guys are going to need some help, and the best way to get them help is to leave some money on the table for management to go out there and bring in some talent. But I do feel like, and sources have confirmed this to me, I think some other free agents who have been in Edmonton who have re-signed in recent years, we all know some big ones, um, I think they had those conversations with McDavid. I don't think you can make your decision whether or not to stay or re-sign with a team based on what McDavid is going to do. But I think if a player is going to commit long-term to an organization and you have this contract looming over the organization's head, and certainly the biggest story going in the NHL will be McDavid's contract. I think it's fair to say or to ask the question, are you planning on staying here? Because otherwise, I don't know if I want to stay. And I think the dialogue between McDavid and his teammates have given those specific teammates the reassurance that he is sticking around. Now, it may not be for 8 years. It may only be 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. We'll see what it looks like, but I think he does plan on signing. And if I was Connor McDavid, who can pretty much put up 90 points with his eyes closed and certainly well over 100 every year, um, he's regardless of how many years he signs. If he signs 4 years, this guy's still going to be in position at the age of 32 to hit another home run. The way McDavid plays, he will be great into his late 30s and certainly into his low 40s. I mean, his skating is just so generational that he's going to be great for a long time. So even if you get him at 32 and you were to sign him to a 7-year deal or, a long-term contract, I think he would still reward you with some big-time play. And we're seeing that right now with Sidney Crosby. Although the feeling right now amongst a lot of people, I think the narrative's changed a little bit. The tone has changed. Pat Brisson came out and made a comment about anything's possible, and everyone's kind of taken off with that. But listen, I think the chances of Sidney Crosby moving on, I think, are certainly higher today in most people's eyes or their viewpoint, maybe in comparison to how people were thinking a year ago, 2 years ago. In my opinion, he's got to go. Just go. I mean, you're going to hang around a losing environment. You're going to lose Malkin, who's in the final year of his deal. He won't be re-signed, and if he wants to continue to play, it's going to be somewhere else besides Pittsburgh. But I think it'd be great for hockey to see Crosby move on, and I don't typically say that because I think it's great for hockey when legendary players stay with one organization their entire career. Getting back to the prospect camp, though, for tonight, I mean, there's one player that I have I'm really going to be watching closely, and a lot of you are saying, "Oh, I want to watch, um, I want to see Dvorsky, I want to see Otto Stenberg, I want to see Lindstein, and of course, you want to see all those guys." But I'm telling you right now, I want to see Adam Urasek defend at a high level, and I think when you evaluate him and you watch him play, I think that's what you need to focus on is his stick, his skating ability, his ability to defend inside his own end. He's not the flashiest player. He's not a Quinn Hughes or a Cale Makar or one of these guys that's going to jump up in the play all the time, look to, create offense from the back end, be aggressive. But what he is going to do is defend at the highest level. He's got a great stick. He's strong. He competes pretty hard. I'm watching in some of these drills yesterday. He's competing hard. I think the biggest challenge for him is just to showcase his skills by staying healthy. He's had way too many injuries, and that would be the concern for me. But when you see him play last year in the World Juniors and you see his hockey sense and you see his ability to really anchor that defense and how well he played against the best countries, it's hard not to be excited about what he can bring to the table. And I'm watching him yesterday. You got Logan Mailloux, obviously, as a right-hand shot. Jurasek. I mean, you got all these guys, man. They are, um, building their defense to where it's going to look pretty good here in the near distant future. So pay attention to him. Quentin Burns getting under the skin of some guys yesterday, even in practice, to bring some physicality. Just wonder what's going to happen with him. Carbonneau obviously is a guy that, it's your first real glimpse at him. We haven't seen him play in competition, real live competition, since he was drafted by the Blues. So we'll watch Justin Carbonneau too, without question. And I want to see how he plays now. And what will be his toughest competition that he's faced probably at this stage of his career. He's going back to junior, probably a good thought or good situation for him. But again, what are we going to be saying about Carbonneau at this time next year? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, will he be ready to compete for a roster spot at this time next year, or is that going to be too soon? Time will tell. Time will tell. But at the prospect camp in the summertime, he was, head and shoulders above everybody else, and that's what you want to see from your first-round pick. All right, we're going to talk some goaltending on this edition of Hockey Sense. We'll get back into a number of other topics with Jamal Mayers later on in the show, but Cory Schneider, former first-round pick of the Vancouver Canucks. I'm looking forward to this conversation. They just recently ranked the goaltenders on NHL Network. He was a big part of that presentation. Binnington came in at 7. But I want to talk about the Connor Hellebucks. I want to talk about the competition for who's going to take charge for USA Hockey. Is it automatically Hellebuck's net until somebody else takes over? I don't know. Let's hear from Cory Schneider. I'm looking forward to it. They still have Vasilevsky very high. They still have Shesterkin very high, who had one of his worst seasons statistically last season for the New York Rangers. So I always wonder how he still finishes, I think, 3rd. But a guy like Austin Matthews dropped all the way down to 7 because he had a little bit of a down year. He wasn't healthy, and coming off a season in which he scored 69, he didn't come close to matching that, which would be difficult for anyone to do anyway. But he fell down to 7, and I felt like it was fine. It was justified. He didn't have a great year, and he wasn't healthy, and so are these rankings based on this past season? If so, Shesterkin's ranked way too high. If it's based on who's got the most talent and the most ability, then you'd put him in the top 3 for sure. So we'll talk to Cory Schneider about that. Lordo's Diamonds. Get that special someone, something special in your life from Lordo's Diamonds, lordosdiamonds.com. 314-432-8008. Go in there and say hi to Mike and Jimmy Lordo. They're the best in the business. What's up, Mike? What's up, Jimmy? No better place to get those engagement rings, too, if you're looking to pop the question this holiday season or sometime even prior to the holiday season. Check it out, man. Get there and get there today. Lordo's Diamonds right next to Truffles in the heart of Ladue. You can't miss it. As always, Hockey Sense brought to you by our friends over at First Community. Check them out today, firstcommunity.com. They've got a variety of different loans for you to choose from. So many different ways to save money and to take care of your money and protect your money. Have a conversation. Do it today with our friends over there at First Community. This is Hockey Sense brought to you by First Community. I'm Andy Strickland. Cory Schneider, he's next. Jamal Mayers later on in the show. Thanks for hanging out, as always, on our Friday afternoon. It's our Friday tradition here on Hockey Sense. Thanks for doing this, man. I appreciate it.
You got it.
Thanks for having me. So I want to talk some goaltending, so that's why we bring in Cory Schneider. It's I see him all over NHL Network. Are you doing stuff with other teams, too? Are you doing television with a couple of teams also?
Yeah, I've been Islanders and Devils the last couple of years, mostly Islanders. But the Devils brought me on for some playoff stuff. So just in-game analysis, intermissions, pregame, postgame, that kind of stuff. A couple of games between the benches, which is fun. It looks like I'll primarily be with the Devils this year. So that'll be exciting because they have a good young team. So I'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So how did you get involved in the TV? And is this something you were eyeing, when you were playing, late in your career?
Yeah, it's funny when you get towards the end, you start to think about the next phase as much as you don't want to at times. But yeah, I'd always had good relationships with people in the media. I enjoyed doing interviews and speaking with them, and just I did some stuff at NHL Network while I played with NBC Studios back when NBC had the broadcast rights. So I kind of got my feet wet there and met some people. So it always helps to as network and put your name out there in case. So yeah, once I retired, I got a call from NHL Network as well as MSG in terms of doing Isles and Devils stuff. So I think they thought I'd be a good fit on TV, whether that's true or not. Maybe more of a face for podcast radio, but I've enjoyed doing it because I do like talking about the game and trying to break it down and think about it a little more critically.
Yeah, you do a great job with it. You know what? But playing with the Devils and the Islanders and Rangers, I mean, it's a great place to play if you want to get into broadcasting, because so much of the broadcasting is controlled by those organizations, and being out there on the East Coast and whatever, there's a lot of contacts you can make by being with those organizations. It's interesting that I say to older players all the time, who are in the twilight of their career, I said, hey, have you thought about what you want to do after hockey? And some almost even get offended by it, like I'm suggesting they should retire now, and that's not what I'm saying. But I do think when you're an older player and you still can play and you want to play for a couple of years, I don't think it's ever too early to start thinking about what you want to do and start planting those seeds. You agree with that?
No, I definitely agree. And again, it's like you said, it's difficult as a player because you're still consumed. It's all consuming playing the game and being focused and trying not to be distracted. However, again, it can end at any time, whether you realize it or not. There are very few guys who get to play until they want to stop playing, and those are the great players. A lot of us, I think I saw was Tyson Berry recently said that me in conjunction with the other 32 teams have decided that I will not continue playing hockey because, as much as you might want to play, it may not be in the cards for, somebody's got to want you. So it happens fast. And even if you can see it coming like I did, it's difficult because I think as a player, you either decide I want to stay in hockey, I want to stay in the game in some way, or I want to go do something else completely different. And that can be overwhelming because it's all you've known. All I did was play hockey for 30 years since I was 5 years old. But, there's other things I can do. I have a finance degree. I love business, but am I going to start working at a company from the ground level and work my way up at the age of 38, 39? It's not quite you're starting your career at 21, 22. So I think a lot of guys do feel comfortable staying in the sport because that's what they know. And like you said, you have contacts, you get to know people. It's challenging and daunting to think about life outside of the game. And I think that's where a lot of guys, some guys really excel at it and they know what they want to do and they go do it. And other guys, I think, you have a hard time figuring out what exactly do I want to do in my retirement.
Yeah, I think you have a good perspective there. I always tell players, hey, listen, you've got a PhD in hockey. You should use that. You know what I mean? Because it is hard. I even tell younger kids who go and play in the East Coast for a couple of years and they're hanging on and they get to 24, 25 and it's like, well, I want to go play for another year or two. But then you got to start your life after hockey at some point, so it's tough to cut the cord, right? And to give it up because everyone loves the game so much. But there is another life out there after hockey that can be very enjoyable, and I can tell that you enjoy doing it. Well, what do you find the most difficult part of doing television? Is there one thing that's more difficult that has taken time for you to adjust to more than others?
I mean, it's like anything. It's like playing hockey. You got to practice. You need reps. You need to learn, cadence, how to talk, how not to, say, those little placeholders, things like that. I try to have a fluid thought, but it can be challenging. I think the hardest thing sometimes is you get all the traffic in your ear. You have an earpiece and your producer, your director are talking. You're trying to speak and make a thought, and meanwhile, someone's talking in your ear, and you sort of have to juggle and do two things at once, walking and chewing gum. So early on, that was challenging for me, just knowing the cues, knowing not to get thrown off when somebody's in your ear speaking. I think too, it's trying to come up with something original and unique. And you can say a lot of the same things, boilerplate, pretty standard stuff. So I like to be analytical, and sometimes that can come off as critical, but I don't mean it to be. It's more just, hey, we're all pro hockey players. When I could take criticism as a player because that's sort of the job. You have to learn, and you are going to make mistakes. And for me, I think it's easy to talk about all the great things, and that's fun. It's fun to talk about the exciting stuff, the fun stuff, the obvious stuff. But I sometimes try to look at it from a different angle. What can they do to improve? What happens if things go wrong? Just try to look at it from a different side. 'Cause I think there's more discussion and more nuance and more. I think it's more interesting to talk about. Hey, Connor McDavid's great. We know that. Okay, well, what happens if he doesn't sign with the Oilers? What happens if there's a hole in his game somewhere? That's a more interesting discussion to me than we know how good he is, which you got to celebrate. But I think trying to find an angle that isn't just the same thing over and over again can be a bit of a challenge because, there's only so many ways you can talk about the same issue.
When you talk to someone, NHL alumni, it's and they get older in their careers, the one thing that's noticeable that kind of goes is your speed. Can you maintain the pace of play? I mean, you look at Patrick Kane as a perfect example. He still has unbelievable hands. I mean, guys who can shoot the puck and still shoot, late in their careers, but it's the speed. What about goalies? Like, what are you looking for when you start to see a goalie start to decline? What areas kind of go first for a goaltender?
Yeah, I think you have to be able to think the game to play goaltending at high level like this. So I think most of the guys have the IQ or the puck reading, and usually the tracking too. Most of these guys are good athletes. You can do the hand eye, but similar to a skater, I think the mobility. I think that's where I got caught up a little bit. Was I started to lose some mobility with some of my injuries and just aging in general. And I was so I wasn't the greatest athlete ever. I mean, I was obviously a good athlete, but I didn't test off the charts. And I see some guys now, the Vasilevskis, the John McQuicks, like the freak athletes who just can do it. So for me, I had to rely heavily on my positioning, my anticipation, knowing what's going to happen before it happens. And as soon as you lose that 2 to 3% of athleticism, or maybe you're a split second late getting to where you need to get to, the game becomes a lot harder. So I think for goalies, you can start to see it when they're not moving as smoothly, when they're a little awkward, when they can't get in and out of their positions quickly enough. Because again, every nanosecond makes a difference, and all of a sudden you're a half second later than you used to be. You don't get to see the puck as long, and now it's by you, or you're not handling it the way you want to handle in terms of rebound control, putting it where you want. So I definitely think the footwork, lateral movement, getting in and out of your set, your positions, I think that can all catch up to a goalie. So that's sort of what I look for. Because again, you're not going to lose your hand eye that quickly. And again, some of it's just mental. Sometimes you just got to mentally grind through some tough stretches. And if you lose it mentally, it's hard to get back in terms of losing confidence and the belief in your abilities.
What was, in your opinion, your strength as a goaltender versus maybe your biggest weakness as a goaltender? Do you feel like the goals that you allowed were in one area of the net, that maybe you struggled the most in? And were there areas of shots that you rarely got beat on because you were so good in that specific area?
Yeah, it's funny to think back on. I'm sure, some other people have different opinions based on the end of my career, but yeah, you know what? I think it was my mind. I think being able to read plays, anticipate, know what's going to happen before it happens. I think that was my strongest area. I didn't play an overly loud game. I wasn't all over the place, sliding in and out. I tried to play very composed and under control. Again, because I trust in my positioning and my hand-eye coordination, and you can stop 90% of the shots that way. If you're in the right spot, it generally tends to hit you. And every now and then you got to go outside of your area to go make those saves. I think weaknesses, clearly puck handling, it's not the strong suit of mine. It just wasn't emphasized as much when I was a kid. So it's not something I learned. And I was a right-handed shot growing up, so I had to learn how to shoot lefty, which complicated matters. Shootouts was an area I did struggle in. I was usually pretty good on breakaways in games or penalty shots in games, but once we got to the shootout, for whatever reason, I just had a hard time with it. And again, I don't know if that's where you might need a skosh more athleticism to get to the spots and shootouts and do that. So maybe that's where I struggled a bit. But I was taught by my goalie coach, Rolly Melanson in Vancouver. It's just, don't get beat through your body. Don't let pucks go through you. Make them go under the bar. Make them go posting in. Make them put in a perfect spot to score. And I try to live by that. It says, hey, if you make a great shot, I'm going to tip my cap to you. But, if it's not a great shot, it's either going to hit me or I'm going to be able to get it. So I sort of live that way, just to not get beat by bad shots as much as possible. And I think every goalie does, but sometimes you let a few squeak through that you'd like to have back. But again, don't get beat through your body. And that was sort of my ethos.
Was there a superstar player that you owned, and then vice versa, a superstar that kind of owned you? Give me some names.
That's a great question. I know you mentioned Patty Kane had a few on me for sure. He made me look silly during the lockout at Switzerland on a shootout move, and then against the Hawks, he always seemed to get his against me. Ovi, obviously Ovi. I thought I did a pretty good job against him, all things considered, but I think he still got 8 or 9 against me. Tough winning in his division though, so you see him quite a bit. Yeah, guys I owned, I'd have to look that up. You know, I don't think Sid lit me up too badly. I think I'd have to go check that. He was passing, he's yeah, exactly. He was dishing. That's the problem. One guy who I am pretty proud of, I think we were the last team that I mentioned before, Connor McDavid ever scored on.
Really?
So I don't know that he ever scored on me in my career. He might have, I think he had like 2 points a game, like assists. He had 13 assists in 7 games, but no goals. So I don't know that he ever scored a goal on me, but clearly he was setting other people up. So I'll take that as a win. Then.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny because I think St. Louis was one of the last teams that he scored a goal against too, but he was still like a point per game guy in terms of all the points that he was putting up. But I think St. Louis was one of the last teams that he scored against. What about when you're a goalie and you're young? You're a high pick and expected to kind of put the franchise on your shoulders and be the next guy. And you're coming in knowing you're going to replace a guy who obviously has been around for a while and kind of has that status. In the case of New Jersey, legendary status. Obviously, in Vancouver, still with Roberto Luongo, who was a huge name. How difficult was that? Like, were you mentally prepared for something like that as a young kid?
Yes and no. I don't know if you're ever really prepared because I think you don't know what you don't know at that age. I didn't. I think it helped that I was a kid from Boston. I'd heard stories about Vancouver, the goalie graveyard, all that when I got drafted. So I was a little naive to all that because I just wasn't exposed to it in that market. I just sort of grew up in the other side of the country and didn't really have to worry about it until I turned pro. And then it gets real when you show up in Winnipeg or Vancouver for training camps and they're asking all these questions. It's kind of like drinking out of a fire hose for a minute, just a little overwhelming. But I think that's part of the position, and you have to believe because I remember when Roberto got traded there, kind of the writing was on the wall that said, "All right, you're not long for this organization." But my agent Mike Liut, who played the position really well for a long time, St. Louis, he was great for me in that aspect in terms of just trying to focus on what was important. And he was matter of fact saying, "Hey, he was have to take Roberto's job and then go from there." And I was kind of like, "Yeah, right." He's like, "No, seriously, like you have to believe that you're going to take his job one day, because otherwise you're just gonna submit or just be happy to be a backup or happy to be there." So I think having that mentality of competing and pushing and learning, it just you want the net, and I think from a young age you learn that that's the difference between a starter goalie and a backup goalie. Is that as a starter you want the net, you want to keep the net, you don't want to give it up, and you don't want to give anybody open the door at all for somebody to come take your job. So that's what made guys like Marty and Roberto so great. I learned from them in a good way, not a negative way. That hey kid, you're not taking my net. I'm going to out compete you in practice. I'm going to be better than you. And I picked that up from them. So I think I learned more from them than worried about the pressure. It's just your play speaks for itself. And if you're worried about the other things, then you'll never make it to where you want to go. But I was very fortunate. I had those guys' posters on my wall as a kid. So to share stalls and pick their brains and just learn from those two guys, I think any goalie's dream. So I consider myself fortunate and not unlucky because again, who knows? Everyone's path is different. Some guys get to the league too quickly and they flame out, and they burn out because they don't have the right teaching and installation and mindset. So again, I got to learn from a guy like Roberto and kind of be, eased into it. And then I was ready to go once I left Vancouver.
First off, nobody can analyze a situation better than Mike Liut, just so you know, as you know, right? So there may have been an hour and a half conversation you had with.
I mean, you have 10 minutes, he's got 25.
At least like, he may yawn a couple times while he's talking, but
he's a wise guy. So yeah, exactly.
Love Mike and Jordan Binnington just passed him for the most career wins in Blues history. I think last year, and he represents Binnington too. It's interesting. You guys do the rankings of the NHL Network, and it got a lot of attention, obviously, with Austin Matthews slipping down to 7 or whatever with the centers.
It wasn't me. So
no, I know that wasn't, but it's like. I've been asked about that in a couple interviews I've done, and I'm like, well, who was ahead of him? And I said, well, this has got to be based on last year. He didn't score 69 last year, so all the guys that were ahead of him had great years. And now I'm looking at the goaltending list, and Shesterkin was still 3rd overall, didn't have his best season, so maybe my reasoning for Matthews slipping was a little bit wrong. Who knows? But how do you compile that list? And listen, Shesterkin, I think everyone would agree, is a top 3 goalie in the world, but how did you find a way to keep him there coming off a year where maybe he struggled a little bit? Did you guys wrestle with that internally or no?
Yeah, I mean, with the network, they kind of come up with a list. The researchers, they sort of do all that, and then we break it down. I provided my own list. They kind of ask you, so at the end of the show, they kind of stuck my list in there. And honestly, I had Shesterkin at 1. I still think he's the best, most talented goalie in the league. I think maybe because I was in this area, the New York area, watch the games. We focus a lot on the Rangers, obviously, as a national team, because they're a big market. But their team defense was pretty awful, and there were nights where it would have gotten really out of hand if it wasn't for him. So I just personally think that if he's in a good situation, he could. He's the goalie I would fear the most. If I went up against a guy in a series or in a big game, and I was like, we might not score a goal tonight. You know what I mean? So as I've gotten older, I'm tending to put more value in that. Who would you want in net to win a big game? And again, I had Connor Hellebuck at 3. which may be crazy and some people probably don't like. And I think he's a hell of a goalie. He's the best American goalie probably of all time when all's said and done. He's going to set all sorts of records. He'll be a Hall of Famer in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to knock him, but I can't ignore his playoff track record recently. And it's just, Bobrovsky was true for me. Guys won back-to-back Stanley Cups. I mean, so yeah, he could be, again, it's hard because it's a list. So people get really fired up over lists.
I know.
But in my opinion, I think there's 5 guys that are separated themselves. Shesterkin, Onger, Bobrovsky, Vasilevsky, and Hellebuck. Those 5 guys are in the top tier. So stack them however you want, your preference, personal preference. Those 5 to me have been the most consistently good goalies in the league for a while. So after that, it's kind of, again, a very subjective list.
Yeah, and you're not going to get an argument from me about Shesterkin being the best goalie in the world. I mean, he's unbelievable. Vasilevsky obviously up there. Bobrovsky just is incredible in the playoffs. I've seen it firsthand against Hellebuck. I mean, I saw him get blown out and get chased a couple of times here in St. Louis during that first round. And I don't know. It's interesting. I'm curious your opinion on how a guy can be so good in the regular season. What does he have? 3 Vezinas or whatever it is. It's crazy, and
Crazy.
and just not really be the same guy in the playoffs. It's got to be mental, right?
I think it's, in my opinion, again, this is just what I see. I think it's partially mental. I think he is a very cerebral goalie. I think he really analyzes and thinks things through, and that's why he is so good because, again, I think he reads the game very well and he thinks one step ahead of guys. So that's part of it, but sometimes that can work against you. It can work against you because you start overthinking and you start, feeling the moment a little bit. And I succumb to that at times where you're like, oh man, this is a big moment. And you kind of stop playing and you start thinking your way through games, which is, it's just not a good thing. And the other thing to me is that it's just, the playoffs get so much muddier in terms of style. People crash the net, tips, deflections.
Yeah.
His game, he plays deep. He's very deep in his net because he's a big guy. He tracks pucks well. But I think sometimes when things break down or don't go according to plan, he doesn't have a ton of recoverability. He's a pretty big guy. And once he's down, he's down. And I just found that he got caught looking awkward a few times. He was getting beat by some clean shots, which you don't see often. So again, that's the mental side. But I think when you play deeper in your net, you have to be able to adjust and kind of react to the messiness that is playoff hockey. So I think he struggles with that at times. He just looks a little lost or out of position or, like I said, scrambly, which you normally don't see during the regular season because it's a little more structured, a little cleaner game. These guys aren't giving it 110% every single night.
Yeah. And he's hearing about it in Winnipeg, in a Canadian market. Like, it's tough to get away from that. Would you have him penciled in? Is he your guy for USA Hockey in the Olympics? Is he your starter?
I think so. I think but it's a narrow margin for me. I think
Who's your number 2? Who's your number 2?
I'd have to go
Ottinger?
on here right now. But again, I think he's gone deep a lot of years, but he still hasn't had that signature moment where he's broken through and gotten to the Cup finals on some really good teams. So there's still questions about him. I think he might have the highest upside right now. Like, he's such a young guy and he's still young, relatively, and big and talented. But there are times where he sort of just doesn't come through when you really need him to. So, and again, it all depends. I mean, Swayman has a heck of a start. I like Joey Daccord a lot. I think he's a tremendous guy who's got a lot of swagger. So I think with the Olympics, at least you have some runway. You got 4, 5, 6 preliminary games to kind of, or group play games to sort it out, and they'll have to tinker. Because I think if Hellebuck shows some signs of cracking, then I think you make a switch pretty quickly, kind of like Canada's done in the past, where they brought Marty in or took him out, or whomever it was. So it's going to be interesting, though. They haven't, again, sometimes it's a good thing to have a lot of options, but then it can be a bad thing because now you start to overthink it. Canada, it's like plug and play. Benner is going to be our guy.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's you live and die by him as opposed to overthinking and paralysis by analysis. Well, we play this guy here and that guy there. It just gets a little confusing. So we'll see what they do.
Yeah, and Cujo got pulled, I think, and then Marty came in. I mean, there's always been, but they didn't hesitate, right? I guess it's easy to turn to a Marty Brodeur as well. I mean, but USA is this loaded. Canada probably doesn't have the same three-headed monster up top. I wonder if a guy like Demko, I mean, if all of a sudden he's healthy and playing at a high level, I mean, you mentioned Swayman. I mean, that was going to be my next question. Him, Demko. I mean, if these guys come in and play at a high level, I mean, they got to be in the mix. I mean, you go back 2 years ago, they would 100% be in the mix,
Yeah, I agree. I think for the U.S. especially, there are no sacred cows. You could say these 3 guys are the guys, but I think honestly for the U.S., whoever is playing the best going in is going to have a good shot. And you mentioned Demko. The only reason I didn't mention him is because it's been 2 years now. I think going into last season, he was definitely in the mix, but we just don't know what we're going to get from him at this point in terms of injury and health. Hopefully he's healthy because when he's on, he's a tremendous goaltender, would firmly be in the mix. It's just, I just need to see it. He just hasn't played a lot of games, hasn't, gotten a lot of action the last 2 seasons. So I think it's a bit of a risk. So you really have to pay attention to how he starts the year. But like you said, Swayman won the World Championships. That's got to work in his favor with USA Hockey in a big moment. So I agree with you completely. I think if somebody's really hot going into the Olympics that or going into the selection, that they'll garner serious interest regardless of who they are.
Yeah. So you said Bennington, he's the guy on the Canadian side. I don't think anyone would argue with that, especially after the way he played in the Four Nations and then finished the season. You guys had him at number 7. Where did you have him on your personal rankings, Jordan Bennington?
I think I had him 6. I think I had him just, again, I mentioned those top 5 guys are kind of in a class of their own. And I think Bennington's right at the top of the next tier. He's had some lulls. I think he almost needs the pressure. It almost feels like the bigger the moment, the better he plays. And I don't say he gets bored, but he might lose focus when the games don't matter as much. So there are times where he can be a little spotty in his play. Hofer came in and had some good games. And when he got pushed by Hofer, he responded really well. And the playoffs, he plays well. So, I think he's earned that right as a big game reputation. So, but again, I kind of go back to if I needed to win a game, who would I put? So he's up there for me because he comes through in big games. So I think he and Sorokin and maybe another guy or two, Olmark, kind of lead that second tier, which isn't far behind. But
No.
I think from 6 to 16, you could sort of jumble them in any order you want, depending on who you like and the situation. But to me, I think, what Bennington's accomplished in his big game performances puts him at the top of that second tier for me.
If Bennington was American, would you still have him in your top 3 or even your number 1?
I don't think it matters. I mean, you got a bunch of Russians up there in the top 5, so I'm not sure it matters a whole lot. But yeah, again, I think he deserves credit. Again, his numbers don't pop out at you. He's not like he's a perennial Vezina candidate,
Right.
But again, when the bright lights are the brightest, he seems to come through, and I put a lot of value in that. So I'd probably still have him where he was.
Okay. Well, I just mean if he was Canadian or American, I should say, like, could he start for the American team? Like, would you?
That'd be close. And probably tougher, to be honest. Maybe he doesn't get a sniff at the Four Nations because they picked the other 3 guys, and now he's not even in the mix. So, yeah, that's an interesting question, though, where he'd slot in on that U.S. Depth chart.
Are you familiar? I mean, have you studied a guy like Hofer? Like in terms of what he brings to the table. I mean, he's got unbelievable upside. I don't think people realize how good he is because Bennington's here.
Yeah, I actually played against him quite a bit when he was in Springfield. We were in their division with Bridgeport, and we played him quite a bit. And I liked his game. He's got a great glove hand. He's a big kid. He moves well. He handles the puck really well. He seems like a fighter to me. He battles. He competes. He doesn't give up on pucks. He's not a robot. He's got some fluidity to his game. So I think there's a dearth of goaltending out there. You can see teams just locking guys up. Ramelka, Lankinen. Some of these contracts just scratch your head a little bit. And I think it's because teams realize there's not a lot of young goaltending out there to be had. So I thought he might have been a candidate this summer to get offer sheeted or to, maybe somebody trades for him or brings him in, looking for that guy to take a swing on. But St. Louis smartly locked him up. So I think he's got a lot of upside. We'll see if it's in St. Louis or not, depending on Bennington. It's hard to sit behind a guy forever. But he could have some value around the league for sure. I think teams are desperate for a good young goaltender to build around or put in and see what they can do.
Yeah. See, like, the goalie position. A couple more things for you, man. You've been great. I appreciate it. But
Yeah.
you know the goalie position. I've always found it interesting that you just don't know how to predict goaltending from year to year. I feel like maybe it's a little bit easier today with all these names we're mentioning. I'd be shocked if a few of them just kind of fell off. I just don't expect that to happen. But in the past, you just didn't know what to expect year to year from goaltending. Why do you think that is? Is that on the shooter's learning tendencies? Is that mental for the goaltender's perspective? Why have we seen such inconsistency with goalies over the years?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of different factors that go into it. I think goaltending, you're so dependent on what happens in front of you. Again, I have those 5 guys at the top because I think they're somewhat system proof that even behind a bad situation, they can still play pretty well and not get lit up. But I think as a goalie, you're at the mercy of how the guys in front of you perform. So if that changes, say you change your system, say you lose some defensemen, say you're just loose defensively, I don't care how good you are, you're going to look bad. You're going to get backdoored. You're going to get plays made on you that shouldn't get made. There's that aspect. And I just think the mental component, it's so hard to be perfect every night and just the mental toll it takes on guys. That's why I think you see guys playing fewer and fewer games. It's just the way the game is developed. I think the shooters evolve quicker than the goalies do. I think the goalies have to kind of react at times to what the shooters are doing. And the last 5-10 years, it's been a proliferation of skill and speed and talent. And that's going to make any goalie look bad. And I've said this before. I think we had not a golden era, but from, 2000 coming out of the first lockout in '04 to, maybe the COVID break, you had about 2/3 of the league you could pencil in every year.
Mm.
The Lundqvists, the Renes, the Brodeurs, the Luongos, the Jonathan Quicks, the Holtbys, the Bishops, I can go down the list forever. Tuukka Rask, guys who just had the net. And now you're purging all those guys, and you've had a whole wave of goalies come in that have had to sort of learn on the fly and haven't had a guy in front of them or a guy they can count on. So I think teams are just trying to figure out who can play and who can't. And it's like a running back or a bullpen in baseball. Just year to year, it can be very volatile. I think there's several reasons why, but I don't know if I can pinpoint one exactly.
Yeah. We had Ben Bishop on here just a few weeks ago, man. It was he was so good. You really dive into his numbers. I mean, like
Oh yeah,
he was
tremendous.
I mean, people don't maybe they almost forget like how good this guy was.
Yeah.
How was Marty Brodeur with you, by the way? When you got to Jersey, I think that was his last year in Jersey before he became a Blues legend. But how was he, knowing you were coming in to take his job?
He was good. Martin and I get along really well. It was a challenging situation for everybody. I think here's this guy who's larger than life. That is the Devils franchise. Like he is the guy. He's Mr. Devil. He's done all the things that everyone loves to remember. So and I think what made him so good is he had an unwavering belief in himself. Even at 42, 43, when I showed up, you still felt I could go play 70 games right now and play well. And I think I learned that from him too. Just have that confidence and that belief in yourself. So again, he was great to me. We had no issue. It was obviously a tough spot for him because he sees his replacement coming in and he doesn't want to give up the net. As I talked about, those guys, they don't want to give up the net. So, he competed hard and he didn't make it easy in terms of playing time. So I appreciate that out of him though. That's what you expect. So again, we were just at different phases of our career. He was on kind of phasing out and, wasn't ready to. And I was sort of phasing into that stage of my career being a starter. So, the coach had to be cognizant of, hey, this is Marty Brodeur. This isn't just some guy. So, I think he earned that respect and deference, and we just worked together. I think we ended up splitting games more or less 43-39, I think. So, again, I'm sure he wasn't happy with it, and I'm sure I wasn't happy with it, trying to make a name for myself in terms of that, but it never became personal. It was just more the situation we were in terms of trying to keep us both happy and playing well.
Yeah, I still see him around, man. He lives here in St. Louis, so
Yeah, I see him at golf events and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, again, we always have a good chat when I do see him.
Hey, last thing for you. You mentioned Bishop. That 2007 Frozen Four here in St. Louis, man. I mean, you and Brian Boyle. Hey, Gerby may have been on that team too, right?
He was.
Who I see now, he coaches his kids the same age as my kid. I see them.
Oh no way.
He's out of Detroit, obviously, but
Detroit, yeah, they got a wagon up there. Oh boy, here.
yes. They may not go to school. I don't know what goes on over there. They just think they're on the ice all day long. Tell your son that you're going to send him to Gerby if he doesn't decide if he wants to play or not. So, but that main team was good with Bishop. North Dakota had Taves and Oshie and these guys, and Michigan State ended up winning it with Applicator. I think was their big guy. Some big time names in that Frozen Four. What do you remember about that experience coming to St. Louis?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, not the ending for us, unfortunately, but we lost in the finals the year before in 2006 to what was now a kind of loaded Wisco team. Had Pavelski, Burish, Jack Skilly, Brian Elliott. Like they ended up being a pretty good team, and we were a bit of an underdog. We lost a lot of seniors. We were like a 3 seed in our region, but just got hot. Boiler turned it up. We had some good players. Gerby went kind of nuclear. So we kind of found ourselves in the finals and we lost 2-1 to Wisco. We got outplayed. We kind of shouldn't have been there, but we were. The next year going to St. Louis, we were the number 1 team in the country. We'd won 13 games in a row. I think we beat Nodak in the semis, like you said. It was a bit of a shootout because you said they had Zajac and Taves and Oshie and Spear. I think Duncan won the Hobie that year. This kid Ryan Duncan, here nobody really remembers.
Yeah, I know.
So out of all that, he were abilities.
And Ryan Duncan?
Yes, exactly. So they were loaded, and I think we kind of outlasted them. And I think we were a bit surprised that Michigan State beat Maine. I think it was a bit of an upset or a surprise because Maine would kind of run into them all year in Hockey East. And again, they had Bish and I know Michigan State had Applicator and the Lurd brothers, but they weren't as loaded as some other teams. But they worked hard and they played well. And we got to the finals, and I think we were really confident going into it. And we were up 1-0, I think, in the third, and they tied it. And then Applicator scored that goal with like 30 seconds left. And it was just stunning. I think we were just kind of bewildered by it that we couldn't really believe we lost that game. And, in retrospect, they played really hard and they worked well as a team, and we just couldn't cash in on a few chances. But That was kind of the one that got away for me. The year before we were a bit lucky. That year we should have probably taken care of it, but we didn't. So it always kind of sticks out in my mind. But the event was great, and playing that arena and playing other NHL arenas is always fun. So I do have good memories about it. Otherwise,
Yeah. I remember vividly. I mean, I was a young reporter at the time, but like well after the game when you guys beat North Dakota, I mean, Taves wouldn't get out of his equipment. Like he was sitting there at the stall in full gear, skates, everything, gloves on. And he didn't want to take it off because he knew that was his last college game. He was going to sign with Chicago. So, um,
yeah.
but great stuff. Hey, keep up the great work, man. I love what you do on NHL Network. It's good stuff, and you bring a lot there from a goalie perspective for sure. So, hopefully we can do this again sometime. Enjoy the rest of the off season because it's going to be here quickly.
Yeah, start ramping up pretty soon. But I appreciate you having me on. Thanks so much.
Yeah. All right, Corey. Take care. Welcome back, Jammer.
How we doing?
So I was at the rink yesterday. Had some viewers come over. They love the show, love the conversations that we get into. So we hit a lot of different topics here. So stay through the show when Jammer joins us each and every week, because you never know what we're going to get into. I'm watching these young kids, man. I mean, the prospects who are going to be going to Minnesota, they play tonight against the Wild, 7 p.m. The Blues are going to stream it on their website, so check that out. I love the prospect camp every year because it's an opportunity to see some of these guys. They're all big, Jamal. I mean, not only fast and skilled and whatever, but the size that these guys bring to the table is so impressive. And I'm looking forward to seeing them get going. This truly kind of kicks off the NHL season for me.
Yeah, what I love about it, and I don't think these rookie things kind of existed. They kind of came after I was.
You didn't play in the Traverse
I
City?
never did. I was. I
It
guess.
came right after you then.
Yeah. So I never did participate in those. But what I do like about them, there's so many different examples. Andrew Shaw for me is the big one that sticks out. I know that he really impressed, the team, the brass at that rookie thing. And next thing you know, no intention of bringing him to main camp.
Wow.
These young players can earn an opportunity to come to main camp and to
Mm-hmm.
make the roster. So I always tell younger players, and the mindset should be, they all have every player that's in the organization that's signed, the organization has a plan for them. So Andy Strickland, they see you as 4 years away. Your job in training camp is to expedite that plan,
Mm-hmm.
to change the plan for you personally. So really exciting time and opportunity for young players for the Blues to take a step forward. That's what's going to have to happen, and for other guys to assume larger roles. And the dynamics of the back end is changing. The some new faces up front. But again, they're looking for these younger players to push and make decisions difficult for management.
Yeah, I could see Andrew Shaw doing that just because his game would pop. I could see him just running around, just crushing guys and then scoring goals at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, and that's good. And there's always one guy, who kind of does that. Now, the first round picks and the draft picks are always going to get the bulk of attention, but it's a great opportunity for these guys who weren't drafted, who are coming in. And I'm thinking that Traverse City may have been going on when you were in college, right after you were drafted, but the college kids aren't ever here and they never participate in that tournament. So that may
Okay.
be why you didn't play.
Yeah,
Because
could be.
I always joke around with Larry Plow, because in the late 90s and early 2000s, the Blues would win the Traverse City Prospect Camp all the time, the tournament, without any prospects, really. Because there was a stretch where they didn't have a whole lot coming in, and then when they had the big dogs, when they got to Eric Johnson and the Oshis and the Berglunds and all these guys, Petros, they never really did very well in that tournament with all these guys that would go on to play 1,000 games. But when they had a bunch of guys that really never played or had real long careers, they would win the tournament. They'd go there with older teams and find ways to win. So, but I would imagine it's a thrill to put the uniform on, even for these guys. It may be the only time they ever put a Blues jersey on.
It's a great point. It's an opportunity for them to showcase their talents and their ability, but also you're right. First time for many of them that get to play in what feels like a real game. I mean, when you're done and you look back, you realize, okay, that's not really NHL. Even the preseason, you're like, okay, that's not really, until you get to the regular season. But when you're a young guy coming in, it's certainly one of the first steps you make.
All right, so I'm watching a little bit. The main guys were on the other sheet, and so Milan Lucic obviously is out there. They don't know who he is. He's played over 1,100 games. So does he have to have a great camp? Like, what do you think he needs to show to push somebody out and make the team?
Well, he has to show what he's good at. And so the question is going to be, can he play with pace? and what are they looking for that bottom six. So I think that you got probably a collection of 5 or 6 players that are looking for 4 jobs. And what he's got to do is come in and provide something that they don't have. And obviously, he's a guy who could provide some energy, hard to play against. But for me, I think it's going to be important for him to show that he can keep up and show that he can play with pace. And if he's able to do that and affect the game in a positive way, that his veteran presence and all the attributes that he brings, toughness, ability to, just his presence, I'm sure around and having him around would be helpful. And I think the game's kind of gotten away from having older guys in the bottom part of your lineup. But I think that teams that have success, and you look at the teams that, you look at Florida, and I think if you're able to bring in, my theory is if you're able to bring in guys at the end of their careers that were top 6 players at some point in their career, and at the end of their career, bring them in as bottom 6, that's a winning formula. And obviously you have to have young players and stuff, but I think you having that veteran presence gives you the perspective that's important for the grind that the season becomes.
All right, so you stretched out a long career, primarily being a bottom 6 guy, but like, how has that
No,
changed?
not primarily,
I'm
solely.
being nice,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right. But there's nothing wrong with it. Like, you could
Yeah.
always skate, and I look at fourth lines differently now than I had in the past because, when I first started covering the game, even when I was a kid, the fourth line kind of had that enforcer, that guy maybe
Sure.
played 3 minutes a game and
Yep.
whatever. You don't see that anymore, and rarely do you hear GM say top 6 anymore. They always say top 9 because your third line is pretty much a second line nowadays with the talent that's on all these rosters and with these guys having the ability to chip in offensively. So skating, though, has got to be so important, though, for the fourth line. All these guys who play the fourth line nowadays, the Toropchenkos, the Walkers, like these guys can all fly,
Yeah, and you also have to have, not all of them, but I think 2 of those guys have to be able to kill penalties. I think that obviously Luch isn't going to be killing penalties, but maybe if injuries or things happen, he can find himself on that second unit power play. So he has the ability with injury as well to be elevated. But the most important thing is going to be, can he play with pace? The physicality that he will bring, it is mute if he can't get there. If you're late, you can't hit the guy.
Right.
So he's got to show that physicality, but it all starts with pace. Can he keep the pace? Can he play with pace enough to affect the game when he was younger? So it's important. For me, it was, you have to give up something when you get older. And when I played till I was 38, and past 34, I had to lose some weight, like 10, 12 pounds, to play with the pace to stay fast. And I think that if you don't get that mix, in my opinion, if you don't get that right, then, because the first thing they're looking for is, can you keep up?
Right. That's 100%.
Right.
I was wondering if you were going to say that because that is it. It's like, can he play at the necessary
And
pace,
so
right?
I wanted to eliminate, I purposefully with my trainers decided I'm going to make sure I can keep pace, even if I lost strength. Made it difficult when you're fighting guys who are a little bit, now 20 pounds heavier, and then made it a little bit more difficult in that sense, in the physicality and the wear and tear. But the first thing for me, the priority was, I have to be able to keep up and still be one of the faster guys.
Did you ever have a run-in with him on the ice?
No, but I should have. One of my regrets was I don't think I was on the ice, but I was in that game when he hit Rhino Van Ryn. I was playing
Oh,
for
you playing for Toronto in the glass?
Yeah, I don't know if Colton Orr ended up fighting him or someone else ended up fighting him, but I felt like I probably should have done something. I don't know if I was. I don't.
Dirty
The whole
hit,
thing.
though, was it?
It wasn't dirty, but it was a massive hit, like that needed a response.
How does that happen, though?
Oh, back then the glass was the seamless glass that didn't give at all. I think they tried that out for 2 years, and I think probably 15, 25 guys.
What do you say to Van Ryn after the game? Like the next few weeks? I mean, are guys?
Oh, no.
Is he okay? Was he?
No, he was concussed and hurt his
he was
shoulder.
hurt.
Yeah.
Okay.
So not good.
Different situation.
Yeah. You can laugh at a guy if he's okay,
Right.
but not if he's not.
I mean, we just had Lucic on the Camera Strip podcast, so just going through some stuff, I forgot about that play, and I saw it, a couple weeks ago. I'm like, oh my god! And it's Mike Van Ryn of all people. So,
Yeah, and I think that was, unfortunately for Rhino, like that was the beginning of
the
the
end.
decline for him. That was awful.
Yeah. You wonder if the people in the front row, if they got cut. I mean, glass just shattering everywhere.
Right. And it was a massive hit.
You don't see that too often. Is that the only time you ever saw that?
The glass shattered like that
Yeah.
after a hit? Maybe a couple other times. Not like that.
One more thing about Lucic. I may have said this to you last week, so I don't want to repeat myself, but he's come in a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
But he says he likes to be heavier. He goes, being lighter helps him get there quicker, but he feels like he has to work harder in the corners, can't shield off guys quite as well. In the battle, like he feels more comfortable with extra weight because he feels like he has to work harder when he's lighter. And maybe therefore the stamina, isn't quite as strong because he's got to use more energy being lighter. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, but I disagree with him. I think there's a difference between being puck strong and being heavy and just using your weight to keep people away. You see smaller players that are 170 pounds that are really strong in the puck. For me, it's about the puck. And so I disagree. I think that that part is a mindset. And I think that you got to go in with the right mindset versus the weight. Like he's going to go in the corner with guys who are craftier and harder. And it's about the hardness. It has nothing to do with, I don't think it has anything to do with the weight.
What do you think the mentality is of a team that brings in a veteran like that? Do you think it's not just to be like, okay, we want to give you a chance just to showcase yourself in front of every other team and be nice. I think they want to see if you can help the team, right?
Absolutely. And there's familiarity there. So I think that's important with Monty and Julie. And I think that knowing the person, I think that the things that he's gone through in his life to get to this moment, giving himself, putting himself in a position of gratitude to appreciate. Sometimes we forget. And I think that you're going to get the best version of him. And I think knowing the person and I think organizationally leaning into those two people who know him so well, I think they're only going to get the best of him. And I think that that's an exciting thing for the Blues if he's able to come in and it's like a found money. And so, I hope he does well. I hope he finds a way to affect and make the team. And I think it's good for the organization. If anything, it's going to push a younger guy to kind of step up their game. There's only positives. It's, a younger guy who thought they had a spot. Now their agent's telling him, hey, Luch is there too. That only should push any younger player to like go for it even harder and understand that there's a battle there to be won. And I'll never forget, like Ryan Johnson and I, every training camp, there'd always be this new shiny little toy, young guy that the organization was excited about, and we'll look at each other. Not this year.
Have him. We just have Matt Cook on. We haven't released. I mean, it is a hell of an interview. He may have gotten mad at me during the interview, but you ever run in with him?
Certainly, yeah. I never. You know what? He played a certain way. I think that back then the game allowed him to do things.
Yeah, because some of these massive hits that he's known for, he didn't even get penalized or suspended.
Yeah. So I don't listen. A smaller guy who played physical, played on the edge, Rafi Torres-esque. I never really. Those types of players always bothered me for so many reasons. I don't want to digress into why. I'll give you an example. The NHLPA, who has a duty to represent both the player and the player getting hit, always seems to me to be leaning toward the offender. And I'm like, what about the guy who got hit? And so why are we defending things? Like, let's create a line. If someone goes over the line, don't defend them.
Right.
And so I just hated when...
Well, especially if another member of the membership is the one who's impacted.
That's exactly what happens all the time. I always have a problem with and he did step up for himself in certain instances, but to me, not enough for how reckless I believe he played.
Yeah.
Well, give you an example. He was so reckless, and for me, didn't answer it enough. Whereas Jordan Tutu, unbelievably reckless, but would answer at any time.
At all times. What were more dangerous hits? Were they the blindside back pressure hits, which he even talks about? We didn't see those hits in the 80s because nobody back checked, and it wasn't like that. Then all of a sudden, everyone had to back check, and that back pressure became such a big part of the game. You started seeing more of those hits.
Yep.
But what were more dangerous? Was it those hits, the blindside hits on the backside pressure, or was it the Dallas Drake hit when he would catch guys coming around the net?
Well, Dally and I had our thing. I don't know if I've ever told you.
Tell me.
We played together. The deal was I would chase the D, and I could probably catch him, but I didn't on purpose.
Right. Just pushing him to wheel.
I would just let him wheel, and I'd chase him and chase him and chase him, pretend like I can't catch him. And Dally would come the other way. And the rule was he had to take the outside track. I would take the inside track, because or else he'd hit me.
Mm-hmm.
So I would always take the inside. He would be on the
You
outside.
gotta be on the same page
And,
there.
oh yeah, or else I would get lit up. But
Did he ever hit you on accident?
no,
Okay.
never did. And I always, and even teaching crew now who's 12 about hitting, their first year hitting, like hitting is about timing.
Mhm.
And you look at Dallas, probably one of the fiercest hitters I've ever played with, was 175 pounds. But it's about timing. You can hit the biggest 270-pound guy, 250-pound guy, if they're not ready. So it's about the timing. When do you arrive? When do you get them? Not 30. It's when it's that element of surprise that if you hit someone who's 250 pounds, 220 pounds, and you're 175 and they're ready for it, it's not going to be good for you.
No.
You got to catch them when they're not ready. And I'm talking about legal hits.
Yeah, because I think, well, first off, and the timing, he had that down, and he would answer the bell too, Dallas Drake.
Absolutely.
But so which hits were more dangerous?
The ones you just
Blindside?
the blindside ones, the back checking ones. I mean, I used to joke that I would only back check, hoping that someone would cut into the middle.
Did you catch
Off, yes,
and not get penalized for it?
no. But I had a rule. Like I thought I hit a lot, right?
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
But my rule was if I couldn't hit half of you, that meant I missed. So I think where guys get in trouble is I get there, but I kind of missed, and I have a choice now. Do I stick out my elbow?
Mm-hmm.
Do I stick out my leg? Do I stick out just my shoulder? I made the decision that if I can't get half of you,
Mm-hmm.
then I missed. I don't know if that
I
makes
talked to Ryan Suter about this a lot last year, because he would hit guys with his kind of stick extended, and he said, "I'm just saving my shoulders." Like that, guys get hurt a lot. People always think about the guys getting hit, but the guys who deliver hits get hurt a lot from delivering hits.
Mhm.
Did it hurt you more to deliver a hit versus getting hit? Did you ever get hurt from delivering hits versus getting hit? Like,
No, very seldom. Only with time that would happen is if I underestimated
The
someone
strengths.
like a Datsuk or
Steiner,
like a guy like Oshie who was
Reverse.
really good at the reverse hit, and then that's when you would be in trouble, and that's when I would. It's not even hurt. It's just you would
surprise.
catch your wind or you get an elbow in the face. I remember one of my first times, my first 3 games, I'm like, I'm gonna run this Zubov. And came straight in, and he gave me the old pretending, looking for the puck, and elbowed me right in the face. And I was like, "Oh, these guys are smart." Like
Yeah.
he knew I was
He knew
there.
you were coming.
Yeah.
He was so good, man. That's interesting. The reverse hits, because Steiner was very good at the reverse hits.
Yeah.
Too. But
A lot of young players don't really know how to do it, and I'm trying to teach.
that can be dirty play too. Sometimes these guys.
It's smart. I'll never think it's dirty. I think it's smart. I think that if you get caught with a reverse hit, it's your own fault. That's my view on it. I feel like
What's the key to delivering a reverse?
the key is leaving the puck. You have to release the puck from your. Do not have the puck on your stick.
Mm-hmm. It can be there in front of you, but
What you leave your stick goes off the puck. Because if you deliver that hit, regardless of how strong you are,
Mhm.
and your stick is still on the puck, you're going to lose the puck. So when I tell players that we're coaching to reverse, it's leave the puck and reverse. And so that's probably the most important part.
okay. So your son, his first year hitting, are you seeing a lot of hitting or no?
It's cooled down a little bit.
It's like
From
a
the
couple
s-
games
from
it's running.
the
like crazy?
the first 6 games were pretty crazy.
Are they calling everything or no? Letting it
No,
go?
they're letting it go. And I think for our smaller players, trying to give them tactics, especially for the wingers, to keep them safe is important. Without drawing on a board, I can show you another time and explain it to you. But for our 3 or 4 smaller players, forwards, I've shown them this is what you're going to do till you start to figure out the timing in the defensive zone. So if you draw a line from the dot to the blue line and a line from the dot to the half wall, if you're in that square, let's call it, I'm trying to tell our smaller players to skate backwards. So that way, if the D is going to come hit you, he's going to have to deal with the back of you. which is a lot more difficult, and you can kind of protect yourself with your rear end, right? Versus turning into it, looking back, and now the guy's coming toward you. So, does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think once they figure that out, also, I think it's helpful that our coach was agreeable to put some of our, if we're a smaller winger, put them on the off wing. I think that helps them see everything is going to be in front of them, and they'll be less likely to be facing the wrong way.
You know, this is the first year my kids play the offside.
Yep.
And I thought, you know, it's not always the most comfortable coming out of your own end, picking up pucks on the wall and whatever. But I think in the offensive zone, there's a lot of advantage to being on the offside.
I like it for both. We'll talk out there, and I'll give you some pointers on what
He needs to get his butt to the wall versus he's catching the rims on his forehand as a right shot on the left side. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, we should talk after. I'll
Yeah.
give him, like, there's probably 4 things he can do that he should
But
probably.
in the offensive zone, you're just coming off the wall and you're
Oh, it's perfect. Everything's in front of him.
Yeah. So it's like I always wonder why so many European players like playing the offside.
Well, all the the game changed, right? It used to be the center transported the puck from the neutral zone, then Patrick Kane changed it, right? Then you got Panarin, then you've got all these guys that are now playing wing, but they're really the center.
Yeah.
They're carrying the puck through the neutral zone, and I would say 9 out of 10 of them are playing their off wing. Panarin, Kane.
I saw a video today, people asking Patrick Kane, like, you know, what's your selling point to Billy Guerin to make you, like, please stop asking him that question. It's like his selling point. How about his hockey DP page? That would be a selling point. But he said, well, to make the team not based on my past, but by having a great first half of the year. It's like, it just give the guy a little bit of respect here. Like, I don't think he needs to come out and have, 40 points in the first 30 games to make the team. You know what I mean? Like, so it would help, obviously, if he doesn't have 10 points in the first 40 games, but I think they kind of have an idea, don't you think, of if he's going to be on the team or not?
I think they have. I think that if he has a good start, doesn't have to have a great start, I think he's on the team. I think you need veteran players. I think he can fill a lot of different holes. If you think about anybody who can run a second unit power play, I mean, granted, he's not who he was 10 years ago, but he's still a guy who last year in the second half of the season put up over a point a game. So, he would be on my team.
And I think a lot of the younger players, I think, are making that clear. They want him on the team. And I shouldn't even say younger, but the Kachucks and the Hugheses, those guys, they want a Patrick Kane around.
He's a leader. I think that Darby doesn't get enough credit for being a leader.
Is he loud?
No. His actions are his leadership. The fact that he won't get off the ice and is continually working on his game day in and day out is how he leads. Stepping up in the biggest moments is how he leads. Recognizing those moments, I think, just even if he's not on the ice, recognizing it on the bench will be his. I mean, a lot of players do feel that, but I don't know if many have a better sense of how and when those opportunities are there.
What do you make out of the Kaprizov situation right now in Minnesota, turning down $128 million? I mean, is this a case of, tell me you don't want to stay in Minnesota without telling me you don't want to stay in Minnesota, or you think this is purely negotiating and Wilds fans shouldn't give up right now that, there's a chance of him staying?
Well, probably a little bit of both. I think it's unfortunate. I thought Billy Guerin handled it perfectly in the sense that he believes it's his responsibility to protect the player. Once it gets out, he turned down the highest, richest contract in history. Kind of makes your player look like he doesn't want to be there. And so I think that Billy did a great job in letting everybody know, like, this is just part of the process. It's truly unfortunate that this got out. But they have a great relationship. He's hopeful that he'll get him signed, regardless of what that number is. But it also makes you think, well, maybe he doesn't want to go back there. And maybe there is something on the side that they're looking at or eyeing at and looking. And so, that's a possibility as well. I think that, time will tell. I think that at the end of the day, I think now that they're close, because they have to be close, right? Like, the number could go up and down $1 million per year, but now that they're close, I think it's probably pressure's now on Billy to get it done before the season. And, I'm guessing that would be his goal.
If you're McDavid, are you holding off on, say he was close to agreeing to an extension with Edmonton, would you want to wait and see what Kaprizov signs?
No, because I I think it's very likely he's going to sign a 3 or 4 year deal
Right.
or not sign at all. I think the way he's handling it, listen, when his buddy Draisaitl and he's traveling to Europe and he's in the wedding, and I don't think he's leaving.
Well, I said this earlier in the show, and I'll repeat it right now. I know players who have signed extensions there recently, who before they signed, they had that conversation with McDavid. Just, hey, like, if I'm gonna agree to stick around for 8 years, can I assume you're gonna be here for a portion of that, you know?
Yeah.
And I think he gave them that insurance, you know what I'm saying? So, or assurance. So I think there's negotiating going on there. I don't see him walking right now after this deal, but I do think and I think a lot of his teammates believe that he's going to end up signing somewhere in that 4 to 5 range, 3 to 5 range, whatever. I don't think anyone's expecting him to sign an 8-year contract extension.
No, I also think, like, it doesn't matter what Kaprizov gets. If Kaprizov ends up getting 17, 18, then his number is going to get to that or more. Or maybe he's going to be fine with, I want you to build around me as well. I'm fine with this 16. So if it's 16 times 4, that's still generational money, 64 million over 4 years. Like,
And he's already made generational.
he'll be fine,
Yeah.
right? So it's not about that. For him, it's about, what are you doing organizationally? Put me in a position to win.
Correct.
And I want to win repeatedly. And I think it's brilliant of him just to keep signing these 4-year deals.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as the cap goes up, get back up to that 18, 19%
Well, he's one
of the
guy who
cap,
can do that, right?
right? So, that formula makes sense. And maybe if you're not going to do it, then I'm out of here. Like, so if I was him, maybe it's 3-year deal.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the only time I've given you.
Mhm.
And you have to prove it to me. And then if you do it again, I'll stay.
Yeah. Why would he need to sign a max extension? There's no need for it.
There's more benefit for him to wait and
Yeah.
continue to maximize as the cap goes up.
And I think you keep the organization on their toes too, knowing, hey, we gotta maintain a certain level of competitiveness to keep this guy here, because that 4 years will come pretty quickly, you know.
And the last thing I'll say about this is, Andy, the cap going up is going to have really significant impact on what teams are doing at the top teams.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you conceivably could pay a player $16 million and also bring in players making $7, $8, $9 million
Exactly.
and not be up against
Well,
it.
still have a guy making 14 in Draisaitl.
Yes.
You know.
And so it really allows players more control.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if you're like bad example, because he's not going anywhere, Sam Bennett,
Mhm.
and you're making 8, and things aren't going well where you are, you can say, I want to go to Edmonton.
Right.
And Edmonton can say, oh yeah, we can fit him in.
Yeah.
And then so I can see a lot of teams like finding a way to get
And
those
we're
7,
okay,
8, 9
Our
million.
windows passed us by. We don't need him here at $8 million anymore. We can just move on. you know?
Yes. But teams will be able to take on those
Sure.
guys.
Anything else catch your eye right now that you're most excited about heading into training camp? I mean, at this time next week, we're going to be into camp, you know.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what the Blues do and some of the young guys that push. There's always surprises at camp. I think that a good example would be Dvorsky. There's a plan for him.
Mhm.
The likelihood is he plays half the games. My hope is that in training camp he proves them wrong and gets off
You
to a
never
great
know.
start.
If he does that, then hey, they'll find a spot for him.
They always will.
comes in here and dominates right now, you know.
And so, yeah, I'm looking for those kind of surprises. And is it Mayu?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, Mayu. I'm looking to see what he can bring. I know they
They're
hope
raving
he can
about
run the power play. So, I think you're going to see a new look on the back end, which is very much needed. And I think that he's going to be a huge part of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that are still to be worked out that are exciting.
Yeah, the new colors look good too, actually.
Oh yeah,
So I was talking to the AAA. I think they're going to change the colors eventually.
obviously. I thought we were doing it this year. What's going on?
So those colors will change also. So, all right, great to have you with us. Who brings us Jamal Mayers each and every week here?
Well, Bartolino's, 5 restaurants, Bartolino's South, Bartolino's Osteria, Chris's Pancake and Dining, Chris is at the docket. Bartolino's Twin Oaks forged many lasting relationships with their customers. Their family model, cook good food, serve plenty, 50 plus years in business. Only 2 places to dine, at home or at one of Bartolino's family restaurants.
Beautiful. Dobbs Tire and Auto Center.
Oh, buddy, listen, we're heading into winter. I know it doesn't feel like it because it's hot outside.
Well, Cam tells me it's going to be a terrible winter too. We're getting into it.
What is he like?
He
He like this?
weatherman. He's a weatherman.
He does it all, this guy. I can't believe you said you're a better hockey player in your prime than him.
Well, I was getting to it so bad, and I just said I had better hands and better hockey.
Oh my goodness, that's it? Just those two things?
Yeah.
And he apparently beat me in a race. He's delusional.
Oh yeah, you want to address that?
No chance. No chance. I beat him in a race right now, and I'm 15 years older than him. Not a chance. I'm 50 years old.
We
He's
have
not
to do
beating me
that.
in a
We have
race.
to do that.
Yeah, we might. Anyway, he's Dobbs is the best. Family owned, over 40 locations locally. And it's not just about your tires. They can fix and diagnose anything. Doesn't matter what you drive, car, light truck, SUV, hybrid, doesn't matter, electric. They will get your car in, up, fixed, out. Go to Dobbs.com for more. But most importantly, we have a new sponsor that we have to talk about for a minute here.
Listen, are you gonna have me over for this cold tub? I need to get
Dude, it's
a cold
unbelievable.
tub in the morning.
Locally owned Spas and More is local master spas dealer with 2 locations, Sunset Hills and Overland Park in Kansas City. Award-winning certified dealer with an A+ Better Business. Mike Leahy is the owner of Spas and More. He's been selling master spas since '96. He opened in St. Louis location in 2006 in Fenton, and then moved to the current location in Sunset Hills in '07. He opened Overland Park in 2021. Master Spas is an American hot tub and swim spa manufacturer from Fort Wayne. So they're U.S. made, manufactured right here. They got a deal with Michael Phelps. They do the chili cold tubs. Can't wait to get mine next year. Angie Hess is Mike's daughter. Brian Oldham run the daily operations at Sunset Hills location. They oversee the Overland Park. Her daughter, Samantha Hess, is a store manager over at Overland Park. Spas and More offers hot tubs, swim spas, cold tubs, infrared saunas, all of your health, wellness, you need this, dude, and relaxation needs. Turn your backyard into an oasis of your dreams with a master spa from Spas and More, located at 12957 Gravois Road in Sunset Hills, where we put the in spa.
I love it. I love it. All right, this has been Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community. Hopefully, everybody has a great rest of your week. Enjoys the prospect tournament this weekend, and then, of course, training camps open up next week. We'll have all the coverage for you here throughout the entire season on Hockey Sense. Jammer, thanks for coming in.
Appreciate it.
Have a great weekend, everybody.